And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Constance Victoria Briggs, author, researcher, and public speaker specializing in cosmic mysteries, including Galactic and Moon Mysteries, Ancient Astronauts, Extraterrestrials, Angels, and the Unseen World. Her latest book is called Earth's Galactic History and its Extraterrestrial Connection. Constance, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
We are so happy to have you. And first, I just want to start with, how did you get into UFOs and all this cosmic mysteries and stuff?
Yeah, that's kind of a long story. I'll try to make it as short as I can. I actually started out doing research in metaphysics. I wrote a book about angels. It was all about going into the light and our guardian angels and that sort of thing. And the entire time I was writing those books, I felt this sort of this draw towards the outer space and the galactic. I always had the interest, but I also have guides around me that I believe are helping me and have been educating me step by step. They started with metaphysics, angels, life after death, and then they, kind of brought me up to speed with the idea of extraterrestrials and us not being alone in the universe. That's the short of it.
Well, do you think that some of the information that you get for the books are downloads from the guides?
So yes. So with my guides, I receive messages. And when they first started me on the path, I'll just start after my Unseen World book, which was about life after death. After that, I started getting these little messages from them that had to do with extraterrestrials. They were basically telling me that we were not alone in the universe and we weren't alone on Earth. And that was just these little glimpses of kind of hearing the messages. They give me warnings, they give me ideas. And so they started giving me the ET stuff. All right. And then as I progressed into the research and collecting the stories, I felt like I had full on downloads of information and just continuing ideas of things that I should be writing down. And they said basically to get out, to get out there. So yes, they gave me downloads. And from that point on, I have been writing and publishing things on the galactic mysteries and cosmic history and information.
Well, besides having contact with your guides, have you seen a UFO or an alien?
When I was 9 years old, I was riding with my mom in a car on an errand at night. And my mom was a very nervous driver, and we kids were told to be quiet so she could nervously, get where she was going. So I was being a good girl and being quiet, but off to my right, as we passed by a little valley, we were going across a little bridge, and there was a little valley. I saw something in the sky, not very far away. And I knew it wasn't a helicopter, airplane, or a blimp. It was circular and it was hovering. And it had revolving lights. And I remember vividly thinking, because I didn't know anything about UFOs at the time, and I didn't think, oh, there's a spaceship. I remember thinking, oh, is that one of those things? I didn't have a word for it. My parents weren't into ufology. So I don't know where I got the idea of one of those things. Possibly I was looking for the word UFO, but I saw something. And I remember it vividly till this day. And when I'm riding in the car now, I was in the back on the right-hand side. Even when I'm riding in the car now, I try to visualize what I saw and how that could be. And, airplanes and helicopters don't hover, obviously. So I was fortunate to have had that experience. since that time, I can't say that I've seen any in space while in the physical. Now, during this journey, this metaphysical, spiritual, and then galactic journey of mine, there came a time in my 20s when I started having out-of-body experiences on a regular basis, where I would wake up out of my body and be conscious that I was not in my body, that I was somewhere else. And, it was very trippy and very interesting. And, as the years passed, I got used to it as they passed. So this particular day, I had a toddler and who was taking a nap, and I decided to lie down and take a nap with him, get a little rest. And I found myself again out of my body in the sky. And of course, by this time, I knew what was happening very clearly. And I was in front of a ship. It was the most beautiful thing I had seen, beautiful ship I had seen. And, I've done a lot of research and I've seen them in pictures. This thing was kind of a bronzy, coppery color, and it was just divine. And I was very close to the wall of it. And I believe I would have entered, but my phone rang. It woke me up, and so I got pulled back into my body. In fact, I was thinking as I was nearing this thing, wow, I hope nothing happens. I hope the phone doesn't ring, because that's what happens when you're out of your body. You get snatched back. And I did. So that's the only other time I can give you two descriptions of UFOs. But that experience taught me that we have UFOs in the etheric, in space, that we can't see while in the physical. Now, there are physical UFOs. We see them all the time. People are filming them all the time. But there are those that only we can see with our spiritual eyes.
Do you think it's possible that your guides are ETs and that's the way they had been trying to contact you far before writing these books?
I believe my guides are ETs. Now, there was a time when I was very young, when I was 14, I tried to commit suicide. I was one of those kids that you hear about being bullied and couldn't take it. So I tried to commit suicide. And at that point, um, I did have what looked like a portal open. It was kind of I describe it as a swirly cloud. It was spinning, and this thing opened and dissipated, and a man stood there, and he had a very high collar and a long gown, and he was beckoning me to come. He looked very concerned about me, and I understand that if I had reached out to him, I would have up and pulled out of the body and followed him. But I didn't know anything then about ETs or angels. I believe this person to have been an ET, and and as opposed to someone else, because when I work in the ET research and information, I feel a huge connection, and I wonder if he is one of the people that are with me. It could be him, but I believe it's three. I just feel like it's a group. And I feel like they are ETs. And I've learned that we can have guides that are ETs as well as relatives on the other side, people that are angelic type of beings from other dimensions who come in to assist and help. But in this case, these downloads are coming from extraterrestrials. And I believe that that is because we are living in a time that is close to the point where we're going to have contact from extraterrestrials, a mass contact, not just individuals, which I believe we are having now. In the guides like mine are unseen, but there are also ETs here that people have encountered. So yes, I believe they're extraterrestrial and they are giving people information to disseminate widely while we get ready for a time when we will have open contact.
Well, it's not uncommon for some of my guests to believe that in their previous incarnation, they were an ET.
Mhm.
Is that possible for you?
That's such an interesting question because it's not something I have, excuse me, gotten into in podcast. So one of the things with me is that I have a memory that is not from this lifetime, and it's of me standing in a light, and uh, just above me is a person that is sitting, and this person is giving me instructions, but I can't remember what they are. Okay. And when I think about this memory and I think about this light, I just feel so safe and so good, and I just wanted to live in it. I believe that that was an extraterrestrial person, possibly giving information to me before I came in. Now, this started again with my guides giving me little nuggets of information to go in and look up because I said to them, I remember being in a light, excuse me, it wasn't a near-death experience, and I know I'm not an angel. What is going on? And that was around the time they were feeding me ET stuff. And so I came across a book, Jeff, that was life-changing. It was titled From Elsewhere by Scott Mandeliker, a gentleman named Scott Mandeliker. And he had done his thesis on people that believed that they were from other worlds, that believed that they were extraterrestrials. And that resonated with me. And I went and I had a reading with a woman who was a walk-in from another world, and she didn't know anything about me. She didn't want to know. And I told her, that I'd come for a reading. I wanted to learn about myself. She told me that I was from Sirius B, and there had been a war, and that I had come here. Now, I like to think that that was true. And she also talked about my husband and my son and how they were with me. And when I asked her why I would come to Earth, and she said, "Well, the soul has to go somewhere." So when I looked at, Scott Mandeliker's information, and I looked at this lady's information, and then I'm hearing my guides, and I know, that they're giving me this stuff to say and to write and to research. Yes, I think that I am from elsewhere. I just feel it, which, explains my attraction to such things as the moon. I wrote a book on the moon, what's going on there, extraterrestrials, my love for connecting with Star Trek and other things. I believe they are, and they're from elsewhere. I believe I am from elsewhere, and I believe a lot of people are, and they have come in here to do this work at this time to educate the masses for a time when Earth and humanity will be accepted into a galactic community because I believe that the galaxy is full of life, and that is part of the reason for coming. So actually, we have two things going on here when it comes to the death of the physical body. If you've got people that have been born into the physical from other worlds, and even ships where they have the science and the technology to be able to place a being in a human body. If we're dealing with people leaving life here, passing, dying, and they're returning to a ship or another world, as opposed to what many believe are the heavenly realm. So we actually have people going, leaving Earth and going to different places. And we have souls here that are from different places. And it's millions of them. Now on Earth, we need titles, right? So we have, to identify things, we just need that here. We're calling them these days light workers, star seeds, the wanderers, the indigo children, the star people that have come in to do this work and to help.
In what way do you believe that humanity and ETs are connected to each other? And how far back does it go?
I'll just answer that by starting with the reason I wrote this book, all right? Because it ties in with your question. Because I do this researching and writing, I get a lot of questions. I'm finding that more people, because of what what they're seeing in the sky today, with everyone having a camera, they are, taking pictures all the time of extraterrestrials. People are coming forward with experiences of meeting some galactic person that have come to Earth. These are individual things, but like I said, we're being prepared, I believe, for a larger contact. I'm sorry, you asked what is the connection with extraterrestrials from the beginning, I think, right?
Yes.
So basically, I wanted to answer people's questions by writing a book that told about the history and the journey of humanity with extraterrestrials. And unbeknownst to some, it started at the beginning of human history, if not before. You hear that the UFO phenomenon started around 1945 or 1947 or something, when we first had, you know, uh, sightings on a more mass scale of UFOs. But actually, we've had sightings of UFOs and records going back, that long. So many people may know already that, we have the ancient cultures of Egypt and Greece and Rome that talked about being visited by gods, goddesses. We have the Sumerians who talked about gods and goddesses. And, we now understand that those were not fictional beings, as we were taught growing up, that people created these gods and goddesses in their minds, and then that's how they relate it to the world. No, these were beings that came to Earth that were star people. Now, I use the term star people because that is what a lot of cultures refer to them as. Those cultures said god and goddesses, but basically they were people that came from the stars. And this goes back so far back in history. Almost every culture in the world has stories about these people.
I hate to interrupt, but I don't want this to get past me.
Okay.
If we follow up on what you're saying, that with our history within ancient Greece and Rome and these other ancient cultures, that they weren't myths,
Mhm,
the gods and goddesses were ETs.
mhm.
Do you think that somebody has been hiding that from us all along on purpose and saying that they're myths?
I think that no, I think that that is what history believed at the time. I believe that the historians felt that they were mythical beings. But what has happened is we have archaeologists, scientists, anthropologists, historians that have gone deeper to look at where these myths came from and the origins. And they now are looking at those as well as religion, ancient texts such as the Sumerians, the Hindu text, and they can see that there's a lot of similarities in what the people were saying in the stories. And some of the stories are the same across the board. The names have just changed. So, no, I don't think that at that time it was purposely hidden.
2,000 years ago, they believed that, Jupiter was God and Mars was a god, different names, as you said. At what point in history did it go from them calling these ETs as gods to a point where in modern times we just say they believed in this mythological figure that never existed?
I think it's our modern times, our modern ufologists, our historians and others who have found some evidence that they believe made these star people real to them. When we look at people, for example, let me go with Plato.
Mm-hmm.
Plato, who talked about Atlantis, said that it was real. We've been told that no, it's an it's not real. Plato said that it wasn't real, but actually, if you read what he wrote, he said Atlantis was a real place, those people existed, and that the ruler of Atlantis was a god. All right, it wasn't fiction, and that he had a wife that was human, and they had hybrid children. So when they have reevaluated, I've got his writings here. It's very interesting. When you reevaluate some of these writings, such as Plato, where he talked about one of the gods being the ruler of Atlantis and his sons ruling Atlantis, and saying straightforwardly that this was a true story, then they kind of think, okay, well, what else happened? How many others are there that are real? Plato, if you're going to believe Plato's writing, I always say you can't pick and choose Plato. You either believe what he said in some of them or you didn't. He said Atlantis existed, and he gave this record of people that existed and where they came from, and some of them came from the stars. Now, what's interesting with him is that, oh my gosh, Plato said that his relative, who was named Solon, Solon, visited Egypt 1,000 years before Plato even gave the story to Greece. And he said that the Egyptians told his relatives when he went on this journey of knowledge that those in ancient Greece didn't have all of the history, but they did because we had a reset. We had to start again, but their library was safe. So this information goes back so far about the gods and goddesses, that anyway, I think I may have gotten off topic there for a
Well,
second.
that's okay. So it appears that the ETs walked among us thousands of years ago, but now it seems like they're hiding from us. Why the change?
That's a really good question, Jeff. And so yes, the ETs walked among us in ancient times. Not only did they walk among us, they lived, and some of them, it looks like, had relations with, each other. They were there. They were teaching us how to live on Earth. They taught us agriculture, cleanliness. They brought us up to speed on how to have great lives here in Egypt. Egypt was lit, was a lit, bright, exciting place. Some of the ETs there were tall, 8 feet tall or whatever. You can see them in their drawings. They were here openly and happily and comfortably. However, it looks like somewhere along the line, whoever is out there, and I say there are galactic hierarchies running things, somewhere along the line, they decided to withdraw. Now, maybe it was to give humanity the chance to evolve without their help, to grow, to find their own way. Maybe that's why they pulled out. But they really didn't completely pull out. Some may have left, but a lot of them, I believe, just hid themselves. And I think they've been here the whole time watching and helping behind the scenes, and some of them doing other things that weren't so nice. But yeah, I think for now, or for many years now, it has been up to us to prove ourselves that we can grow and mature as a species and eventually join them, in the galactic community. So I believe a decision somewhere was made, because yeah, I had the same question. And it wasn't just ancient, our very ancient times, history. We still have UFOs from time to time that appeared, like in times of war. I've got a lot of those in my book that seem to be trying to help us in some way. During the wars, they appeared. They were called flying shields because the people didn't know anything about, disc-shaped ship. But they did, sometimes appear and come in and out. But living among us and walking among us, that somebody called that off, I think.
In what way do you feel that they are interacting with humanity today?
Today has become very important, in the sense that we are being trained in a way to understand that we're not alone in the universe. They want us to know that they're out there and that we we have, we have their help if we so choose eventually because they're higher in technology. But right now, they're just working towards showing themselves in the skies more. They're educating us through the media, science fiction, social media. They are trying to get everyone up to speed, and it is taking a long time because, we're not ready. We're still a primitive species that are warring, destroying the earth. They withdrew and they watched us and they have seen what we have done. So, they are there watching us and trying to slowly educate the masses that we're not alone. And they're waiting to see, how we turn out and what we're going to do. Now, there is some indication, according to one ambassador, and he said, this gentleman says he's an Andromedan ambassador, and that they are waiting out there to see if we will mature, that humanity has to grow up, humanity has to stop destroying the earth, stop working with the atomic weapons, um, before they can make their presence known. But if we don't, they may have to step it up and change the schedule and prevent us, from destroying ourselves. And that if we can't grow up, if we can't change as a species our behavior, that they gave us plenty of room to do to grow to be, better a better species, that they may have to step in and there may be a consequence, to our actions. They've also indicated through writings and channelings that our behavior on Earth is having a domino effect out into the galaxy. And we're causing a disturbance. So they're trying to work with us to let us know we're not alone without just kind of stepping on us and saying, look, you have to do it this way. So I know they're working in that sense. Now, there is some talk about extraterrestrials working with our scientists on Earth, trying to give us upgrades. Okay, and that would go in with the idea that and I do believe that we were genetically, created. We were created by extraterrestrials that used some genetic material from Earth and genetic material from themselves to create humanity. So there are those that are working with scientists, I've heard, to give us upgrades. And that's where we've gotten things like, um, certain medicines and certain ways that, that we've been able to extend our lives. Some of that, it is believed that they're hidden and physical, but then on the other hand, I believe that a lot of that was given through us through telepathy, information that was downloaded.
Do you have a timeline for when you think they will land in Walmart parking lot so we can all see them?
It should be Walmart, not the White House, right? Everybody expects the White House.
Yeah.
Uh, no, seriously, I've heard a lot of things. I've heard that it won't be in our lifetime, but it'll be in the next 50 years. I mean, who really knows? There was a gentleman who came out 2 years ago who wrote a book. He was an Israeli gentleman. He's a decorated officer. He's old. He's rich. He's done his thing, and he said he can talk about the extraterrestrials. And he said what he knows is that they are on Mars working with human astronauts that went up there, and they're all working together. He said, but don't tell humanity they're not ready yet. Well, of course, this gentleman decided to tell it anyway. All right. And he's not the only one saying it, that the ETs say that we're not ready yet. But there's also a story about extraterrestrials meeting with our government, and one of the agreements before they tell us is to educate us. And the idea that we are being educated through science fiction, it seems to be a reality. there was a gentleman, as you might know, Jeff, named Gene Roddenberry. Gene
Yes.
Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, was sitting in on channeling sessions by a woman who claimed that she was channeling a group of extraterrestrials. It was either the Galactic Federation or the Ashtar Command. I've heard both stories. That she said she was channeling this group, and that they said they were traveling the galaxy, and they were in Earth's vicinity, and they were here to help us, and that their crew was made up of people from different planets or different worlds. And the story goes that Gene Roddenberry got the idea of Star Trek from sitting in on those sessions. And if you look at it, as crazy as the idea may be that we might use science fiction to educate the masses about extraterrestrials, it could be a real thing, because there is no other um, series on television or movies that has been as popular as that show, and it really has expanded and opened people's minds.
I have never heard that story.
Yeah.
That's where Roddenberry got the idea from. That's amazing.
I'll tell you a story that I've never told anyone. I'll just share it with you. So I tell you that my guides, say things. And, I've got little warnings like check the door, found a toddler outside that had gone out that I didn't know
Cool.
had escaped.
Hmm.
Well, in this case, it was Gene Roddenberry, Gene Roddenberry, Gene Roddenberry. And I'm like, what? What Gene Roddenberry? Gene Roddenberry, what? So as usual, you can't always get all the information, like the lady who was channeling these space beings. I don't get it like that. I get phrases. Be careful, watch that, blah, blah, blah. So went and I Googled forever. I could not get anything on Gene Roddenberry until I hit a book called The Only Planet of Choice, where he was interviewed and he talked about this stuff. He talked about the channeling. He talked about extraterrestrials out there. It wasn't just Gene Roddenberry's bio of writing Star Trek. It was his deeper thoughts and his experience. And then I went like, oh, so amazing. I've got a lot of guide stories where they've led me to, they were trying to give me a message, and it turned out to be a Sirius book, Sirius, a book on Sirius, and lots of things. When I'm driving, I was driving once without a seat belt, and I saw my car hitting a wall. Just all kinds of things they do. So I trust that it wasn't just me going crazy. It was Gene Roddenberry, Gene Roddenberry. So yeah, it's well known now. I hear people talk about that story now. This was about 20 years ago when I first came across it, but now it's more common knowledge. So do I think it'll be soon? I do. And they said they're not going to let us destroy all life on Earth. So I think people should get with the program because they're watching.
I believe in your book you write about that there is a battle going on for Earth. So are you saying that there are both good and bad ETs out there?
Yeah, so I was recently writing my blog, and I said, I was dismayed to learn that there are good and bad. I just wanted to understand that it was a marvelous universe with good out there waiting for us to join them. It's not like that. I was saying it really is, both, just like in the Star Wars movies. Um, there's good and bad, and there are some dark entities, or dark, not entities, species that are affecting Earth, and that would like to take control of Earth, that would like to own Earth, that would like to take over humanity. I mean, there is a story about the Anunnaki. Many people in your audience may have heard about the Anunnaki creating man and for enslavement, and that's possibly where we started. And it wasn't fun. All right. Now the idea of enslavement is out there. There are beings that I never wanted to face that might possibly exist. That they are the reptilians, and I closed my eyes to that for a long time. But then when writing this book, I was talking about the hollow earth, and some of the openings around Earth that lead down into the Earth, and some of the caverns I talked about where people have come across reptilian beings. These people were not lying, they weren't making this up. They're there, and they would like, according to history, according to writings, they were there, at the beginning. They feel that they own Earth. They feel that they own parts of the galaxy, and they would like to take over. And it sounds like something out of a movie. But when you look back in history, you do see them all over the place. Reptilian statues and writings about reptilians. Even there's a story out of South Africa, where I was writing the Moon book, where they talked about reptilian beings creating a hollowed out egg and sending this thing across space and placing it in Earth's vicinity, and that is supposedly the moon. Now, I'm saying that the story of reptilians are everywhere, and they are thought to be beings that want to take over Earth. Now, are they the only ones? Maybe not. There could be more going on than we know. Now, when I talk about the dark too, there are some, as everyone knows, there are some stories of, abductions and cattle mutilations, things I never wanted to look at. But obviously, these are not light beings, and they were doing this for some reason. I think that they got uh, chastised. I don't hear much about this anymore. I think that I believe it's stopped. Now, some people will say no, it hasn't, but I'm not seeing as much information on that. But yeah, there are those out there that would like to take over Earth. And Jeff, the other question is Earth the property of someone out there? Is Earth a kind of a real estate? All right. Does someone own Earth and we don't know it? Because is that a struggle for Earth? There are scientists who have said that they have seen what looks like they don't know where these bombings are coming from way out in deep space. And they're saying, oh my goodness, it looks like to us there's a war going on. Well, it may or may not affect us. However, when you look at Earth, there are places on Earth that looks like it was hit with atomic weapons. There are places on the moon, craters that are not natural, that look like they were created from atomic weapons, and also on Mars. If you go to the Hindu scriptures, not scriptures, sorry, the ancient Hindu writings, and they talk about wars, nuclear war, and there being beings and people and gods that could leave Earth and travel into outer space and to the moon. They went to the moon and some went beyond, and because of a war. Now, what were they fighting over? What were they fighting over? Were the the moon, Earth, and Mars fighting together, towards some foe out there? Or were they fighting each other? So I say, there may be a war going on. Is there a war for Earth?
Well, if we get back to the hollow earth, I've had a couple guests talk about that there are caves underground here that are filled with human ET hybrids that they're waiting to release. Do you know anything about that?
So I don't know specifically about human ET hybrids that I can give you a story about, but it doesn't surprise me. I believe that could be a thing. It could be a huge possibility because I believe that there are extraterrestrials inhabiting inner Earth. I believe there are several different possibilities of who's down there. Some that have come from the galaxy physically. Who knows how long ago? It could be billions of years ago. It could have been before humanity showed up, that someone came in to the Earth to inhabit the Earth. Our Earth is full of openings and caverns and caves and areas where they can be inhabited, are inhabited. And there also may have been more recently beings that came in and are there and are there. The moon looks like it is hollow. It is believed to be hollow. I believe there are extraterrestrials residing within. The moon of Mars, Phobos, looks like it's hollow. This hollow thing could be something going on that's very common in the universe. In fact, someone has said, that it seems, a scientist has said, it seems that we're living inside out on Earth because it would be safer to be living within so that we wouldn't have disasters, talking about a reset of humanity. Had we been in a hollow earth, would we have had to possibly start over and over and over again as a species? As weird as that sounds, that is said to be something that, a possibility. So yes, I believe extraterrestrials are there. I wrote a whole chapter on the topic, what they're doing down there. Some are living in cities. Are there some sort of hybridization going on? Quite possibly. And I'll tell you something else that's really interesting for me, as is people are reportedly seeing very odd creatures these days. Because of the camera, everybody has, these cell phones. They are photographing some strange looking things. Where are they coming from? Could they be ET hybrids, or could they be some kind of species, several that have been there all along and that are now coming to the surface?
Well, you also have a chapter on USOs, underwater submerged objects. What's going on underwater?
Woo! My favorite chapter. I wrote that chapter before I wrote the rest of the book. So, we went so many years just hearing about the UFOs in the sky. For a lot of people, this is new information coming out. They may have heard a little bit about it, but they haven't gotten in-depth information. So we have obviously areas around the world that are so deep that we can't get into. We've visited more. We've explored more of the moon than we have the oceans of Earth, and we've only explored less than 1% of the moon. So that shows you there is a lot going on our planet that we don't know about and in the waters. There was one lady who talked about seeing, she was on an expedition and they had come across beached whales that had holes in them. It looked like these whales had had their flesh removed. Looked like someone, I guess, was eating the flesh or something. And they were kind of out and looked like a tube had gone in and come out and taken it out. But so special equipment was brought in to look into the ocean, and they said that they had some beings down there, and these beings were humanoid. And according to this lady who said it was, classified information, but she wanted the world to know. And she gave her name and everything. I looked her up, but I didn't get to talk to her. I think she was kind of told to be quiet about this. But anyway, she said they found these beings and they had habitats, they had vehicles, and they had weapons. All right. Well, um, I feel comfortable talking about that story because the Russians came forward with declassified information. They have declassified their UFO and USO information, and they talk about their Navy who went down and saw humanoid beings, and they tried to actually interact with them. They were trying to actually, catch them, and they were thrown out of the water. And I think they used some type of weapon and they were thrown out, and two of them died. So you've got these experiences, out there, information coming in that's letting us know that there is someone down there. People are seeing the USOs diving into the water. They're seeing lights, people on ships, on boats, people on the Navy are seeing on the radar these movement in the water or lights just under the water. Heck, there were even some people on a beach. I think I wrote about that in my book. They were standing on a beach that could see this large movement and then lights, through the water. So they're there. They're extraterrestrial. Some have said they may have been there all along and evolving beside us, but I think they are extraterrestrial because, how do you you can't create weaponry underwater unless they are using caverns and then going, out of the water that way. So the idea behind why an extraterrestrial would choose why they would choose to live in the water is because maybe they're avoiding humanity. Maybe it's a good way to hide from us because they know we are warring people and we would fire on them on questions not even asked. All right, maybe that's the reason. Perhaps they are simply aquatic beings, and I don't mean mermaids as we have, I believe those are real too, but that's a whole other show. This is something else. I believe there are different species in our waters, but these are extraterrestrial beings, I believe, that came here and now reside here. Now, there was one man who said that he was in a ship, that he was taken to a ship, and the ship dove into the water and then went into a cavern. And through that cavern, it opened up, okay, to land. And below, he was taken to an inner Earth city. Yeah. By the way, people, Christopher Columbus, if you haven't heard the story, also saw USOs.
That's true.
Yeah,
I think he got in trouble with the Spanish Inquisition over that. That was in his notes when he came back.
I don't know, but I'm not surprised. Did they told him to be quiet, perhaps?
I don't know. It was probably something I saw in Ancient Aliens or something, but I think when he got back, it was in his ship's logs or whatever, and he got in trouble for that.
Amazing.
What?
I love those stories.
Mhm.
Um,
Well,
I love the idea that they're down there.
what are the cosmic freeways?
One of the reasons people don't believe many people don't believe we're being visited is because, they say that there's just no way anyone can travel across the universe
Yeah.
from place to place, from world to world, and then come here. That's just not done. How can it be possible? And, the thing is this. If you go to the NASA website, they talk about a time where there may be a possibility of us using wormholes to move across space and to move from world to world, even dimension to dimension. And who knows, the sky is the limit. Universe is. All right. They love the idea. We just don't understand it. All right. So in my chapter, Stargates, Portals, in the Cosmic Freeway, Stargates, Portals, and Wormholes, I go into that a bit, and I talk about the possibility that there are extraterrestrials that are so far advanced that we can't possibly understand what they're doing. It would look like magic to us. And we are advanced now, but we couldn't even touch them, right? So you've got worlds that are possibly 100 years older than us, hundreds, thousands, millions, billions. Who knows what technology they have discovered, or what science they can use, or how they do things. But the idea is that they are using possibly wormholes and portals, stargates, to interact in the universe and to travel and visit. And this is an idea that has gone back to our ancient history. In ancient history, uh, in several places around the world, they talked about men talked about seeing openings where people would, like, an opening would happen just in front of them and someone would come out. They talked about doors, and they had physical places on Earth where they said men would come and go through these doors, obviously a stargate of some sort. And they were told from the people, from the beings coming in, that they were going to another place, that they were traveling to another place, that they were from another place. So this isn't just, science fiction. In fact, in my book, I list places that are believed to have been open stargates at one point, that the ancients said, existed. So I talk about that being a possibility, and then I talk about the fact that there are galactic hierarchies out there, that someone is operating these things, just like on Earth, that we have people who are operating our freeways. There is someone out there that is in charge of these cosmic freeways, and that is how they're going about. And this is technology that they could bring to us if humanity could ever get their stuff together, so that they could be friends, with those out there.
Do you think that the global warming that is happening is from the ETs terraforming the planet?
Yeah, Jeff, I don't know much about the global warming. I don't really know how to answer that question. Could be, but I can tell you that I believe that the Earth was terraformed. I do believe that this was, and I tell you, the scientists, they say we don't know how life got here, how life came to be, and they have said it's a problem. We don't know. And I believe that a lot of the life was brought here. I believe that the earth was terraformed. And when we look at the ancient writings, that's what, we're seeing, that the earth was a barren planet that someone manipulated and things were able to grow here. But I don't know much about the global warming and that.
Have you heard of the idea that the Earth is a prison of our galaxy? And if so, what are your thoughts on that?
So, interestingly enough, there are two ideas behind the prison planet hypothesis. One is that we are, again, set aside, not physically set aside. I mean, we're in the corner of the universe, but the galaxy. But I mean, the fact that things are being hidden from us while we grow up and mature and become less violent. All right. We're living on a planet, and I don't mean the wars today, I mean all wars ever. We're living on a planet where people think that warring is justified. All right. We're living on a planet where even if we're not at war, we're hurting each other in the streets. They're watching all of this. They're seeing that things are not equal. I believe that there are many worlds out there that are at peace, at least from my studies of the extraterrestrial races, that there are worlds that are at peace that don't have these problems. So that's one reason that we are a prison planet. They don't want to interact with us right now. They withdrew from us and they wanted us to show how we would progress. And this is what we've done. This is what they're seeing. The other hypothesis is that we are just too young. So, and they use the word prison, but I don't think that applies, but that's where I've seen it applied for humanity just being too young at this point to get involved with again, for us to grow. And then there's the other very strange, and I don't believe this, but I'll throw this out there, the fact that Earth may be a holding place for souls that were just too destructive to allow out there, and they were placed here. I don't believe it, but it's an interesting it's an interesting theory.
Well, I think one of those theories comes from the nurse that was with the ET that was allegedly captured at Roswell, and that's from the telepathic communication between them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened in that story.
Yeah, I haven't read the book, but there's a book out there about it.
Yeah, I have the book actually, but I haven't had the time. I've had it for a year. Just haven't had the time to get into it.
All right. Well, if people want to find out more about your new book, Earth's Galactic History, should they go to your website or to Amazon?
Go to Amazon. It's really you can go to my website, but it's on Amazon. My website just takes you there. And yeah, you can get that. And then you can email me through the website if you do and let me know what you think.
What is the most important thing that you want people to leave with after reading your book?
I want them to understand that we are not alone. We're not alone in the universe. We have been visited since ancient times. We live in a galaxy of good and bad, but the good prevails. I didn't get into this, but we have had help from extraterrestrials. And yeah, just know that we're not alone and do your studies, learn more because there's going to come a time either now or a little later, maybe in our when our children grow up that we're going to make contact and it would be best to be in the know than not.
If we get back to ET's landing at Walmart, if they did, do you think we could handle it?
I think we could handle it. Uh, I think that we have become pretty well aware now that we're not alone, a lot of us, that we're not alone. I think that it's a minority these days that don't know. I think we could handle it. I think we would, if they were benevolent, we would welcome it. We could use the change, we could use the help, we could use the science, we could use the technology, and we could use a Star Trek future, that would lead us into one.
Do you think that the majority of people out there that don't believe in ETs is because just that we or they haven't seen one?
Mhm. I think that's what it is. It's like the whole ghost thing, If you haven't seen something strange going on, then you don't believe it. The same with the extraterrestrials. Wait until they see one, then they'll be, I'm seeing all the time film of people getting film of UFOs and some little, what looks like a little ET. I've literally seen people with films of ET who are shocked. Little, that's another show. But yeah, I think that's why, because they haven't seen it, but they're out there.
Well, Constance, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Don't worry about the negative stuff. From my studies, the majority of what I've come across is positive information, and that we are living in a very loving universe full of beings just waiting for us to become a part of them.
Constance, thank you for your message. Thank you for being my guest, and I hope you come back because you've got a lot of books of subjects we can talk about.
Me too. I would love to come back. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.